It is a special and sacred delivery. After years of calls for repatriation, dozens of historic Indigenous artifacts are set to arrive in Canada tomorrow. 62 items that have been held by the Vatican since the 1920s are going to be delivered to the Canadian Museum of History. And once there, they'll be examined before being returned to their original Indigenous communities. For a closer look at this historic moment, I'm joined once again by the Assembly of First Nations National Chief, Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak. Good morning and welcome back.
Good morning.
Chief, this is our second time speaking this week, and I'd love to get your thoughts on the Chiefs meeting at the end of this conversation. But let's start out by focusing on this delivery. How important, first of all, is this moment for you and Indigenous communities in this country?
Well, it's so important for residential school survivors, for their families. The relationship with the church has been complicated, and I think this is a good step, and I want to lift up the late Pope and the current Pope for doing the right thing and working with our people, and finally, giving back the artifacts that were taken many, over a century ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, over 100 years they've been out of this country. So what challenges have you faced in having them brought back?
Oh, it was really difficult. It's not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
And, national chiefs before me have pushed for this, to be done, to be finished. And, it's been a long process, and many residential school survivors have pushed through this issue and have said it time and time again. I know that at the Assembly of First Nations, we called for the return of our artifacts back in 2017 through a Chiefs resolution, through our Chiefs in Assembly, and the work started way back then. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm really glad that the late Pope did the right thing and that the current Pope kept with that commitment to return our artifacts.
Yeah, this is a promise fulfilled that was made by late Pope Francis. He promised to return those items when he was here in 2022. Can you let us in, Chief, on what kind of conversations were being with the Vatican since then? Did they desire to hang on to it, or was it more just about process of how to get them here?
Well, I think both. First of all, are they going to transfer them, right? Like at that point, the Pope had apologized, and I lift up all of our people back then for pushing and successfully making sure that the Pope had apologized, and then he came to Canada and apologized again. It was a really profound time, and then talking with him in meetings at that time, like we talked about the return of our artifacts and what that had meant to us. So lots, I know that, like I said, the late Pope is such a good human. He's such a great person, and he could have just pushed this down. He could have pushed it down to the next Pope, the next Pope, the next Pope. But I lift up both of these popes for doing the right thing and, returning them to their rightful owners and their rightful caretakers. And so our relatives are coming home tomorrow. They land in Montreal. I also want to thank Air Canada, who reconfigured a plane for us, and also the elders who came with me to Rome and to the Vatican last week to do ceremony. I really lift them up in a good way. So it's been a tough negotiations. I'm going to tell you, it wasn't easy, but with prayer, with love, with the guidance of my elders, and I'm just so glad that this day is happening.
Chief, what are some of the items of significance?
Oh, there's many. There's many from British Columbia. There's Innu. There's some from northern Alberta. There's Dene. There's just lots of artifacts from all over, and there's many that are unknown. Like we know they're First Nations artifacts, but we don't know what part of the country that they came from. So it's going to be that's a whole different conversation after. The goal right now is, of course, to get them on Canadian soil, and we've got 4 youth that are, that flew over yesterday to Germany because it was such a complicated process to get them from Rome to Frankfurt to Montreal and then Montreal to Gatineau. So we've got 4 young people, Isaiah Bernard, Isaiah Anderson, and 2 other youth that are, I'll have to get the names to you, but they're flying over, and they're going to return with our artifacts back, as well as our elders put a sacred bundle with the artifacts that are coming back. So, it's a big day for us. It's a monumental day.
What a powerful moment to have youth bringing these artifacts that have been away from these lands for over 100 years, being part of the ushers of having them returned. It really is a sacred and powerful moment. Chief, I know that you have a busy day ahead of you and weekend ahead as well. I did want to, before you go, though, just have a chance to get your sense. The Special Chiefs Assembly wrapped up yesterday in Ottawa. At the start of the week, you told us the federal government had fallen short on some key promises. The Prime Minister, several of his ministers spoke at the Assembly this week. How much faith and trust do you have that this government is going to fulfill its promises moving forward? Do you feel heard?
I think we feel heard. I feel heard for sure. I want to thank the premiers last summer when I met with them for their commitment to have a First Ministers meeting on First Nations issues, long overdue on many issues that could be solved by sitting at the table together as full partners. And then, of course, the Prime Minister for answering that call from the premiers and from myself from the Assembly of First Nations as well to make sure that we have a First Ministers meeting. I know that it hasn't been done since the 80s, but here we are. Let's get some work done in this country. Let's respect each other around the table and move forward in a good way. And we're going to have to push and pull on that agenda a little bit, but very hopeful that we can work on some outcomes for First Nations people in the year ahead.
Chief, we appreciate your time with us this week. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.